There is no future for people who deny their past. My foreparents, my grandparents,
Welcome to the Final Boss Podcast, your ultimate destination for urban culture, community vibes, and live conversations with the movers and shakers of the streets. Join us as we explore the rhythm of one beat at a time. Let's get the show started. Turn up the volume, sit back and relax, and welcome to the Final Boss Podcast, hosted by Turbo, the CEO, and follow us on all social media platforms.
You're listening to the Final Boss Podcast.
Ta-da! Welcome to Tuesday night's edition of the Final Boss Podcast. I'm your host, the Final Boss, and that is the Big Sensei, Big Mike. Listen, we got a special show for you tonight. Something we haven't done before. You know, we're all about innovation over here. So tonight, I have a surprise. But before we get into it, let me give a warm welcome to all of our final bosses and our smarts. Thank you for your support. Thank you. I can't say enough. I, and all of our guests appreciate you, our supporters. Thank you so much. And I would not be remiss if I did not give you the greeting of the day. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. To all of you guys all over the world who are tuning in and watching right now, you're taking the time out to watch us and hear us and support us. Thank you. Man, we got a great show for you tonight. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I'm actually have a chance. There's no better chance to put something forward than to move forward with it in the forward direction, make it one step. So we're going to move in that direction with a surprise that I have just for you. Let me see. And tonight's topic is freestyle. Yeah. Freestyle. Yeah. With the Sensei. But before we get into the main subject of tonight, freestyle with the Sensei, my brass tacks for tonight. My brass tacks comes from Eleanor Roosevelt. And here it is. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Keep your face always toward the sunshine, and shadows will fall behind you. Eleanor Roosevelt. That's our brass tacks for tonight. And man, I am excited about this one. Super excited. This is episode number 83. If you have it, please go get some merch. The merch site is being worked on, but you can still see the products. The merch site is www.thefinalbosspodcast.com, all one word. www.thefinalbosspodcast.com, one word. Also, we love your feedback. We've been getting your feedback. If I get the feedback, I'm going to post the feedback. and you will be able to see your feedback, your fan letters on all of our social media sites. Because when I get it, I'm going to create a fan letter posting and push it out there so the people, and including you, can see exactly what you wrote. Exactly what you wrote. So please continue to send us some great feedback. And to do that, you can email us at info@thefinalbosspodcast.com. The email again is info@thefinalbosspodcast.com. Now, let's get right into it. Sensei, how you feeling?
Feeling awesome.
Huh?
Beautiful day. It's a beautiful day.
Beautiful.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. You kind of low. I don't know if that's my end.
No, it might be my end. Might be
Okay.
where the microphone's placed.
Yep,
Is
that's exactly what it was. So
that any better?
that's a lot better.
I do that microphone placement.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the one and only, the Sensei. And tonight's his show. I will be stepping away from the platform. He's holding the fort down. And you're going to have freestyle. Yeah. With the Sensei. I'll be back 10 minutes till before the show ends and do an outro. And he and I can have talking points about the show and how he feels about the show himself. So, y'all enjoy the Sensei.
Thank you, Dwight. It was amazing.
Floor is all yours, sir.
Love being here. Thank you again. So, welcome back to the Final Boss Podcast. Today, we're diving deep into a concept that has haunted me and inspired me. I've thought about this for years. It's something I call the 1 in a million effect. It's the brutal truth about why most people never make change and why only a tiny handful leave a legacy. But that's just the beginning. We're also going to dive into the ages of relevance. How does your influence evolve through life? And how most people never, ever tap into the power of where they are right now. And then we'll close with something practical on how to actually become relevant. Or more importantly, how to stay that way. So we're going to try to do something meaningful. Build, lead, change, or create. If you want to do that, you need this framework. So let's get started. So the 1 in a million effect. How many people do you think are truly willing to change the world? To actually make a difference? Not want to, not talk about it. I mean, do the real hard work. Burn the ships. Put the tea in the channel. Actually get out there and do it. Pay the price. Now, if you start with 1 million people and who are upset about something, because you constantly hear it out in the news, everybody's upset about something. How many do you think are actually willing to move the needle, to actually do something about it, to get it done, to make a change? So let's start with 1 million. So with 1 million, these are the people that are mad. They tweet, they rant, they go to a protest. They really don't do much more than that. Outrage is cheap. Being mad just isn't enough. So when we talk about the million and working our way down, we also have to consider that the system itself is going to react to what you're doing. And when I mean react, I mean that if you go out to a protest, or you rant, your tweet, the system doesn't care about you. It expects it. It's white noise. It's just noise. You're not making any difference. You're not making any changes. You're just out there complaining. So because of that, nothing happens as far as repercussions for what you do. So then you get down to the 100,000, and we break it down that way. We go from 1,000,000 to 100,000 to the 10,000 to 1,000, and we work our way down. So when we're in the 100,000, this is where your commentators are, your podcasters, your influencers. These people debate, they share memes, they talk about the problem endlessly. But in reality, they're just another form of white noise. So yes, they might be out there pushing their agenda, but they're really not making any true changes. So the system doesn't care. Now, please remember this, that the closer you get to the one, the more the system, and I mean the system as far as not a computer, not a government, but the overall, our existence. Our existence doesn't like change. And so I call it the system. So the system will react the more painful a change becomes. So if a change starts to become painful to the system's a status quo, then the system's going to react accordingly. So for example, if you're just talking, the system doesn't care. You're making noise. That's all you are. The talking feels like it's action, but it's not transformative. It doesn't make anything change. Nothing. It's just white noise. So we're now down from the 1,000,000 to the 100,000. We call that the talkers. Now we're down to the organizers. So with the organizers, these people group up. They launch movements, charities, digital forums. They start building momentum. This is where the system begins to take notice because they're a force multiplier. It's not just them making noise. They're now creating groups and crowds of people that are making noise. So the system starts to nudge back a little bit, a little soft resistance. And you hear of this called, in the terms of censorship, maybe a corporate sponsorship that'll dilute the message. So if you become an influencer, you're going to get sponsors. And so when you have a corporate sponsor, you now have to taper your message or temper it down to not upset your corporate sponsor. Otherwise, you're going to lose your sponsorship. So that will dilute a lot of the message that an individual who really wants to make a change, that's going to dilute their message quite a bit because they're going to get, I'm going to say it, they sell out. They enjoy the benefits of the influence that they have created. But what happens if they start to get, roadblocks? Things start to slow them down. And this is where a lot of people fall off because it gets uncomfortable. And once things start to get uncomfortable, this is where you see the true mettle of people. So now we're down all the way down to 1,000. Now you have to remember, out of 1,000,000 people, we're now down to 1,000. And these are your action takers. These are the people who get their hands dirty. They risk money, time, their jobs, even their safety, their own personal safety. Now, the system responds with bureaucracy, permits, tax threats, legal letters, roadblocks, cease and desist letters, things of that nature. So this is where the people that are trying to make the change realize the cost. This is where the cost starts to get heavy. And again, more and more people fall off. So now we're down to 100. Out of 1,000,000 people, we're down to 100. And these are ones that they won't quit. These people don't quit. These are called the resilient core. The resilient core. This is the ones that they are not going to stop no matter what. They're attacked online. They don't care. They lose friends. They don't care. They lose money. They don't care. They keep going. They're starting to gain traction. They're starting to really begin to make a difference. Not truly making the difference, but they're beginning to. Now think about it. From 1,000,000 people down to the 100. These are the ones the system starts to really pay attention to them. So isolation, deplatforming, where you get banned from social media, your name gets smeared. Whether things are true or not, it doesn't matter. If an accusation is an accusation, that's all that matters. The accusation is enough to smear your name. So you see what's going to happen if you're really dedicated and you won't quit. You're going to be faced with these things. More resistance that the system feels, the stronger it's going to react, the stronger it's going to push back. So now we're down to 10. Out of 1 million, we're down to 10. These are the ones who shift culture. They shift law, shift markets. They're a threat. So now the gloves come off. It's where audits happen, because the system's really going to come after you hard. Targeted harassment, surveillance. These people are dangerous because they can no longer be ignored. They're truly making a difference. But again, the system doesn't like change. So if you're actually making a difference, you're going to have some serious resistance, because you can't be shut up. You can't be shut down. So now we're down from the 1 million down to 1. This is the person who shifts history. 1 out of 1 million. Their work lives on after they're gone. Their ideas ripple through generations. Sometimes they're glorified, but most of the time after they're dead. And remember this, legacy comes with scars. Most people don't want to pay that price. Most people do not want to pay the price to be that one, where the legacy moves on. That's the legacy maker. So I'm going to ask you something. Where are you in the pyramid? If you're part of the 1 million, are you trying to be the 1? Where are you in that? This is where you take a hard look at yourself. And you have to decide, what have I got to lose? If I'm going to push, I'm going to lose. Do I want to push? How far do I want to go? Do I just want to vent? Do I really want to make a difference? This is a hard question. The only way you're going to know the answer to that question is you need to know who you are. You got to do some soul searching. Dig deep. Know who you are as a person. What you stand for, what you stand against. And I'm not talking about the trends, the media, the things that you hear and see out in the world. I'm talking about your core values. Who are you as a person? There's one of 3 reactions that happen in any bad situation. There's fight, flight, or freeze. Which one are you? If you come upon a car accident, car's on fire, what do? Do you run away? Do you stand still frozen and looking? Or do you run towards? That's going to have a big indicator as to where you would potentially fit in the spectrum of the 1 to 1 million, or the 1 million to 1, I call it. You have to know who you are. And most people don't really know who they are because they haven't been tested. You can say that you stand for something until it becomes very personal and painful. And then you really have to step up your game. And truly, if you stand for something, you'll know. There was a country song that says, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So you need to find out who you are as a person. Look inside. Do some soul searching. And I'm not talking about just a quick glance. These things can take a lot of time to truly find out who you are. What are the things that really upset you? What are the things that just are passing? If something upsets you over the long haul, then that has a lot more meaning to you, and you're willing to fight for it or against it with a lot more energy than if something's just a passing fad. What's popular? You know, why do we care what's popular? The closer you are to truly making a difference in this world, the less people you're going to have around you. You're going to become lonely because most people don't want to be associated with someone who has that much sacrifice going on. They'll be there when you succeed at the end, but they don't want to be there during the battle. Most people don't. So that's a really, really important question to ask yourself as to where do you fit in that scale? And that's more important, more than just for making the difference in the world. It's also to find out who you are, because a lot of us are searching for that. Who am I? Why am I here? What's the purpose of life? Well, if you know who you are and you know what you stand for, that goes a long, long way in answering that question. And once you know who you are, you don't have to prove to anyone anything, because you already know what you stand for. You know who you are. So it's not necessary to get out there and have to prove how good you are or prove your value. You already know your value. You've already proven it to yourself. And that's the most important person to prove anything to, is to yourself, not to anybody else that's out there. They're not walking in your shoes. They're certainly not living your life. Are they paying your bills? It doesn't matter what they think. So let's see, in that pyramid of 1,000,000 to 1, there's the ages. I'm going to call it the ages of relevance. So even if you have the guts to climb the pyramid, it's about timing. Your timing in life determines how you climb. This is the ages of relevance. This is a big deal because you always hear the phrase, timing is everything. And it truly is. So we're going to break this down into some pieces that are easy to understand. And you can hopefully see where I'm coming from when it comes to this. Because if you aren't relevant in the world, you don't make a change. But in order to be relevant, you have to understand there are steps to it. So the first one I'm going to call is the discovery age. It's in your teens to your 20s. You're trying to figure yourself out. You're trying everything. You just want to be seen. Most people in those age groups are chasing attention, not impact, because they don't know what impact is. They're just looking for attention. They want to be relevant, but they don't know what they want to be relevant for because they haven't learned who they are yet. So they don't know what they stand for. They're still trying to learn that. So here, relevance is very fragile. It's external and it's temporary. If you're relevant, it's only for a very short, brief period of time. There's no longevity to it. So there's no real impact. It's like dropping a pebble into the lake. You didn't drop a boulder in the lake. You're dropping a pebble. So then what occurs is once you're actually out of your teens and your 20s and you're trying to figure yourself out, now you're in the production age. This is the 30s to 40s. So in your 30s to 40s, this is go time. This is where you build, you lead, you produce. Now your relevance comes from results. Your results of what you do become relevant because you are producing, you're doing. You're not just standing by watching. You're doing, and therefore your results create relevance. But the trap here is getting caught in the system. And you're chasing status, approval, or wealth while forgetting your deeper purpose. Now remember, what you're trying to figure out here is, why am I here? What am I doing? And what am I trying to accomplish? So in that, do you see how it's easy to get caught up in chasing a piece of the puzzle not trying to solve the whole puzzle. So again, chasing status, that can distract you, and you can sell out for corporate sponsorships or a big paying job, or somebody offers you a lot of money to speak for them or work for them. Okay. So you're searching for approval. So you can either get one of two things in this world. You either get the gold or you get the glory, but you don't tend to get both at the same time. So if you're chasing glory, you don't tend to get the gold. If you're chasing the gold, you don't tend to get the glory. It's very rare that you get both at the same time. And if you do get both at the same time, you're getting a diminished version of the both. So you're not getting full gold or full glory, you're going to get half of each. Because that's the price that's paid if you want both gold and glory. So this is where many people sell out or burn out. You're so busy chasing that status, that wealth, those things, the boat, the cars, the motorcycle, the big house. You're so busy chasing those things that you lose sight of what you started out to do. Now your things own you, you don't own them. So we move on from there. We're out of our 40s. We're now into the influence age of the 50s to 60s. Now remember, decades happen overnight. If you blink, a decade is gone. It disappears so rapidly. So we're in the influence age of the 50s to 60s. Here, you did the work, and this is where people start to listen to you. They really begin listening. You're not the loudest person in the room, but you're the wisest person in the room. You teach, you mentor. This is where you shape minds. So, what's the tar pit here? Many people, when they get to the 50s and 60s, are trying to maintain youth. They're trying to stay young. So they give up the pursuit of their purpose to try to stay young, to try to hold on to youth. And that's another form of distraction. So you don't evolve into a true leader if you're chasing after the young bucks. So influence isn't about being loud. It's about being right and being respected. That's influence. That's being relevant. So again, what happens? You're spending so much of your time trying to survive. It's difficult to remember that your purpose that you wanted in the beginning was to be relevant, to have meaning, to stand for something, and to be remembered for it. So now let's talk about the legacy. The legacy is what you leave behind. You're either hand off the torch or fade into irrelevance. So at that point, if you're not passing the torch on for that legacy to stay alive, it's gone. It'll disappear with you. So if you never build anything that's lasting, you're going to have regrets. You're going to say, all this work I did to make this difference and to be relevant, what happens? It's gone because I die. Legacy isn't about fame. It's about what echoes when you're no longer in the room. Is your presence felt when you're no longer in the room? That's legacy. Or you remember for decades after you're gone. Is your legacy passed on to next generations? So where are you in this timeline? And what's your role? Ask yourself that. Are you building? Are you trying to figure it out? Because some people go through their teens and 20s and still haven't figured it out, and they don't start to figure it out until they're in their 30s. So they end up using, or I'm going to say wasting, their 30s and 40s trying to figure out who they are. So if you're trying to figure out who you are, you're not able to really be relevant because you haven't created anything that is worthy of being relevant. Are you just chasing money? You ask yourself, well, if I have this time in my life and I only have so many years where I can actually make a difference, and time moves rapidly. So the older we get, the faster the time moves. And when I say that, I mean that think about this. When was the first time you rode a bicycle? Do you remember the first time you rode a bicycle? And you'll probably do if you've rode bicycle before. Or the first time you drove a car, or the first time you swam, or one of the firsts in your life. You'll remember the first time, but you don't remember the 1,000th time. So what happens is life, by its nature, becomes repetitive. Once it becomes muscle memory and repetitive, you lose track of it. And when you lose track of time, because you're doing the same thing over and over again, you don't know if I'm on step 100 or step 10,000 because I'm just walking. So I don't know where I am. That's why time disappears so quickly. So I like to say that you need to find something every single day which says today is a great day to be alive. I don't care how small it is. It can be watching the moon rise as the moon's coming out, watching the sunset, watching the sunrise, looking at some clouds for a minute, sniff the flowers. I don't care. Smell the roses. Who cares? Something every day. You need to find that something every day that says today is a great day to be alive. If you don't find that every day, then you've only existed that day. You really didn't truly live. And if you're existing, all you're doing is checking time. And before you know it, it's gone. And you have to look back on your life and say, how many days did I live in my life? And how many days did I exist in my life? It's not a difficult question. This is why people tend to have these midlife crises you hear about. Why does this guy suddenly go out and buy a sports car when he's in his 50s? Well, because he looks back and goes, I wasted 20 years when I really should have just bought the sports car and enjoyed it. At least I get something out of all the work that I do. And so time is going to be the sneaky thief in the night. It's going to be the thing that's going to get you the quickest. You don't have an unlimited amount of time on this planet. It is a finite resource. So take advantage of what you have. Find out where you are. And do you even want to be relevant? That's a tough question, but you have to answer that for yourself. You have to know in your heart, do you want to make a change? And if you want to make a change, let's talk about how to become relevant. How do you actually go up the pyramid? You want to rise to the pyramid. You understand your part in time in this life. You know where you are. So I know where the pyramid is. I know where I want to be in the pyramid. I know where I am because timing is everything. So now you understand those two components. But how do you actually become relevant? In a world where the attention is currency and distractions are infinite. And it's getting worse by the day. So let's keep it simple. There's 3 pillars, 3 things that can help you to become relevant. And it's not hard. It just isn't. It's not hard. Clarity of purpose. People need to get you in one sentence. What do you stand for? What's your core idea? If you're vague, the world's going to just pass you by. If you're not clear, you're not remembered. Consistency of value. It's not blowing up at once. It's showing up daily. Value doesn't have to be big. It has to be real. Teach something, build something, solve something. Relevance grows through repetition, rhythm. day in, day out, day in, day out. I'm asking a quick question. So that's the two pillars so far: clarity of purpose, consistency of value. Now comes a tough one. It's where most people forget this. This is the courage to lead. Relevance requires risk. When you speak the truth, you're going to make enemies. You're going to get misunderstood. Every legacy maker has faced rejection before recognition. If you're waiting for permission, you're already irrelevant. You're already invisible. So this is where you have to have the courage to step up, to do what you feel is correct. So here's some things that are also bonus items to help you stay relevant. Document, don't just perform. Keep a journal, track what you're doing, write down your goals, and then you can look back on that and find out where are you in your journey. So you don't just have it in your head, you actually have something you can refer to. Build something real, a brand, a book, a system, something. Collaborate. Now, it's a double-edged sword, collaboration. Yes, you can grow faster with others, but you also have to worry about being distracted by others. So if you're on a mission, you have to make sure the other people you're collaborating with have the same mission you do. In that process, you're going to also need to understand that you need to evolve. Don't dilute your purpose, but evolve, because as you learn more about your purpose and how you can be relevant in your purpose, you may have to change how you're actually functioning in order to make the difference. You can't make the difference if you're not changing to make the difference. Ignore your vanity metrics. Likes don't equal legacy. Likes are fleeting. Likes are nothing. So it's terrible how that we can just become so irrelevant so quickly and fade into nothingness before you even know. So let's talk about back to the 1 to a million. Let me give you some examples of things that have occurred where people have been in the 1 million, the outrage. Everyone's mad, most are spectators. So during COVID, outrage, protests, tweets, hashtags, millions are angry. Few moved into action. The Occupy Wall Street in 2011, millions showed outrage, but who followed through? Nobody followed through. What changed? Nothing changed. So what was the point of the exercise of being upset if nothing changed? You were irrelevant. You did nothing. You made no difference. So now let's talk about the commentators, not creators, the talkers, the 100,000. These are those social media influencers who rant about injustice, but they don't find no solution. So here's the thing. This is how you can tell the difference at this level. If someone's making a lot of noise, but they have no solutions, they're only complaining. So if you come with a problem, you also need to come with a possible solution to the problem. Because if you don't come with a solution to the problem, you're just noise. So countless number of YouTubers are out there making money, complaining about corruption, but not one of them has a solution. None of them. So does noise equal change? No. So now let's talk about the 10,000, the organizers. Examples for that. You've heard of the program of MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Started by one mom and became a national movement. So you could see that has gained enough notoriety, enough attention, that you know about Mothers Against Drunk Driving. So the system starts listening. Laws start to change because you have this group that's organized that has gathered enough following that is actually beginning to truly build something. It's huge. And it started by one mom. So one person can make the difference. So you hear about these student-led post-Parkland organizing against gun violence, March for Our Lives. A lot of talk, gaining traction, but still it's not enough to truly make the difference. So now let's get down to the 1,000. This is where we're starting to talk about real time and real sacrifice. So one name I'm going to drop is Edward Snowden. He risked exile to reveal NSA surveillance. The NSA was surveilling us, the United States, and he found out about it and at great personal risk revealed it. Now, there's two edges to that. Some people say that he's a hero. Some people say he's a traitor. Depends on your perspective. But either way you look at it, he made it. You have to recognize that he made actual, true sacrifice. Have you ever heard of Project Veritas? The guy's name is James O'Keefe. You can love him or you can hate him, but he crossed the line into action where he's actually out there getting, through the Freedom of Information Act, seeking out the truth behind the noise and trying to truly find out what's really happening in our world. So these people build, they don't just post, they actually are doing something. They're sacrificing to do it, but they're doing it. They're sacrificing a lot of animosity. They're sacrificing a lot of their personal risk just to even move the ball forward. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of them out there that are trying to make money. They're just noise makers. They don't, and I could drop a whole bunch of names, but there's just no point because you know who they are. You know who the noisemakers are, that all they do is complain. And when it comes down to brass tacks, do they ever have a true solution that's actually a viable solution? No, they don't. So we're now down to our 100, our examples of the 100. So this is a resilient core. Okay. This is where we start people that are here after the fire. So if you know the name Julian Assange, despite imprisonment, public smears, he continued to fight for transparency. Whether you love him or hate him, it doesn't matter. He wants transparency. So there's a lot of groups that still happen that are grassroots educators who are fighting the real world fight. They're looking at finance or civics, and they're being banned from schools because they're trying to teach real world education instead of the garbage that's being taught out there. When I say the garbage, I mean things like the core math. And I'd love to see how an accountant can function using core math. I just could never understand that one. I thought that was kind of interesting. But this is where people that are taking great personal risk to actually make a difference. So now we're past the 100. Now we're into the examples of the disruptors. These are the people that are too effective to ignore. The people that, on both sides of the coin, there are people that are too effective to ignore. So an example of one that's too effective to ignore, who's made a big splash, and was very popular for an extremely long period of time. Very, very popular and very accepted. And that was Elon Musk. He disrupting energy, transportation, space. Now with Twitter/X media. Don't think that man's not under constant attack, but he's not going anywhere. He doesn't care because he doesn't care. And he's even said in interviews, I don't care if I lose money. I'm not going to cave to somebody telling me I have to think a certain way to get their money. I don't care if I lose their money. That's too effective to ignore. Another guy is Jordan Peterson. He moved from an academic to a global thought leader, and he triggered mass reactions and has had a lot of bad things happen to him because of it. He's had his ability to practice psychology taken away from him. He's had a lot of bad things happen to him, but he's not going anywhere. He's just going to do it. And whether you like her or not, Greta Thunberg, whether you like her or not, she started from a protester to now she stands for something. So the key here is you stop playing the game and you start threatening it. Those are the disruptors. But there's not a lot of them because many are so distracted by the time it gets to them. So now let's look at the 1 out of a million. These are examples of those who have changed everything. Everything changed after them. The ones who have made the big splash. First example I'm going to give you, Martin Luther King Jr. Nonviolent resistance reshaped the civil rights landscape. Totally changed. Whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter. You have to recognize that because of his work, change occurred. I'll give you another one. Rosa Parks. One act of defiance became the spark that lit the flame. Huge change made. Huge change. Another one would be Steve Jobs. Like him or not like him, doesn't matter. He changed how we interact with technology. He was making things happen that nobody else was even thinking of. Let's go back a little further. Harriet Tubman. She went from being a slave to being a liberator, guiding dozens to freedom. And these are only a few. There are so many who have made so many changes in our society, in life as we know it, and their influence has gone well after them. Examples: Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, spiritual and philosophical legacies lasting millennia. They were definitely legacy makers. So legacy is forged through long obedience in the same direction, not instant fame. And most people, it's going to happen after you're dead. That's where the legacy is going to be, not while you're here. You're not necessarily going to get the credit while you're here because you're still working, you're still pushing forward. So the truth is this: everyone wants to be at the top, but almost no one's willing to pay the price at the bottom. That's why legacy is so rare but so powerful. It's huge. So have you ever heard of the term 10,000 hours? And the term 10,000 hours comes from, if you want to be good at something, usually it will take 10,000 hours for you to get good. So calculate that out. What does that equal? 10,000 hours equates to 4 hours a day for 10 years. How many of you have the gumption to do it, to do the 10,000 hours? So Malcolm Gladwell was the author who he popularized the term back in 2008. And the research was done by a psychologist named Anders Ericsson. And it claims it takes 10,000 hours of deliberate practice to achieve mastery in any complex field. It doesn't matter whether it's music, sports, business, or leadership. So what this means is talent is overrated. You have three things that happen. You have luck, talent, and hard work. So how many people do you know of that have run out of luck? They were lucky, and they ran out of luck. How many people you know that talent, that guy's the most talented basketball player and blew it? They're done. So talent in itself is not enough. mastery that's earned. Look at, if you've ever looked at some of the greats in basketball, you look at Michael Jordan, you look at Kobe Bryant, you look at Dennis Rodman. Those are three examples that are just absolutely out there. Deliberate practice, focused, uncomfortable, skill stretching practice. Kobe Bryant would practice and be on the court practicing. Somebody else would come into practice. He would continue practicing the whole time they were there. When they left, he kept practicing after they left. Michael Jordan, it's legendary about his work ethic, what he took for him to get where he was. Dennis Rodman, not the greatest player as far as being recognized for his skills for scoring, but he worked harder than anybody else. He would go and run for miles after a game. Unbelievable. And these people didn't need fanfare to move ahead. They did in isolation. They sacrificed. So, are you willing to work alone without recognition and sacrifice of your time, energy, and effort to get good at what you want to do? Are you willing to do it? I mean, at the 1,000 level, okay? Because we love going back to that. Most people burn out before they even hit 1,000 hours, let alone 10,000 hours. Think about that. At the 100 level, that's a decade of discipline behind that. And the 10 and 1, 10,000 hours, that just got them started. That just got them started. So that's the key. No matter what happens, you have to work at it. I'm going to give you some key takeaways here, okay? For the smarts, pay attention, write this down. Relevance isn't given, it's earned through practice and dedication. Legacy isn't talent, it's time. That consistency over time. If you haven't hit your 10,000 hours into doing something you want to be good at, keep your head down. Not because you're failing, because you're still becoming. You haven't gotten there yet. You're still on your journey. And it's a beautiful journey, but it's going to be a lonely journey, because the more that you become relevant, less people that you're going to have around you who are going to be for you, who are not trying to distract you. Because that singularity of purpose is not a groupthink item. Singularity of purpose is a isolated, dedicated mindset that requires a focus and drive that most people can't maintain for a couple of minutes, let alone for years and decades. And if that's not you, if it's not who you are, then understand that and know your limitation and know that, hey, that's just not me. I'm not that person. I don't have that kind of focus and drive. Well, then don't expect to become something that you're not. And I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying that it's going to take a piece of you that you might not be willing to give up. And that's the part you have to understand. You have to be willing to sacrifice your time, your energy, your money, everything about you if you want to reach the higher levels. It's not impossible. It's just takes more than a lot of people want to give. That's all. That's all it does. It's potentially more than you want to give. So hopefully this gives you some insight into a pretty complicated theme. We weaved a lot into it. But at the same time, even though I wove a lot into it, it's some really good information because clarity is a beautiful thing. Once you get rid of the smoke and can see what's really going on, you can make decisions. And you can really move ahead if you want to, and you're willing to sacrifice to do it. Hey, Dwight.
Hey, sir.
So we got to cover a range of subject.
Oh, I tuned in, my man. I'm all aboard. Great show, man. Great show. Let's give it up for the Sensei, baby. Let's give it up for the Sensei. Awesome job. Awesome subject. Man, you can't beat that conversation. And that's that conversation alone needs to be driven. We have to keep hitting the hammer on the nail, pushing that information out because we need more ones. We need more ones. You know, like you said, when people get to that 1,000 mark, they've invested the time, they invested resources, capital, friendships, jobs. They've made all of the sacrifices, and then they're drained. And sometimes they wipe out.
Yep.
And then you're down to the 100, and then the 10, and then the 1. And now when you're the 1, you have pushback from the system, which is a very, very heavy and dangerous thing.
But, well, yeah, the system will kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, literally. Yeah. The system will take you out.
Absolutely. 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 But thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, again, the Sensei. And tonight, freestyle with the Sensei, Big Mike, and his amazing topic. We're going to give him a great hand. Oh, man. I was tuning in, and I'm working on some things as we speak in reference to the podcast, and there's more to come. I need you guys to, if you enjoyed the show, I know you have, because you're smart and you're final bosses. That's what you guys do. That's why you're here. Send us some feedback at the email address at info@thefinalbosspodcast.com, or DM us on all the other social media platforms that you're watching us on. Please. I'm not begging, but I'm asking. Go check out the merch site. It's being updated, but go check the merch site out. I'm working on that also. Some changes are coming in the next week or two in reference to a better, streamlined, and visually attractive site. So it looks kind of bland right now. I've been working on it, but we're going for a better product, and that's what we do. And on top of that, this is where we have the most difficult of conversations, right here at the Final Boss Podcast. That's our show for tonight. You have any other comments or anything?
No, it was interesting. It was good. So we got to cover some things that were really important.
Okay.
Hopefully draw some clarity and clear out some of the smoke.
Okay.
Because it's once you lay it out, it's easy to see the differences, and you can now spot. You can spot someone who's just spouting. You can spotting. Oh yeah, you're not relevant. Whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
You have
that's
no
true.
solution. You have no solution you're putting forward to the problem
Yeah.
you're complaining about. What good are you? You're useless. So
Yeah.
I'm disregarding you. So that actually helps you to understand about what you're looking at and key in on what are things that matter. I want to key in on people who are actually making a difference and actually living it. That's who I want to throw my support behind.
Absolutely.
And I want to help make them relevant enough that they don't get shadowed or cut out. Make them too big to fail, so to speak.
Exactly.
But yeah, that was a good show. I enjoyed it.
Okay. All right. Well, everyone, need you to tune in this coming Thursday. We have a great guest host who's going to be here, Dan Wilder, who's back in the area, and he's a radio personality. He does voiceover work. He does a lot of different things. He does corporate radio promotion. He does a lot of different things. He's going to be on the show. Dan Wilder, from the radio promotion days and from radio as a radio personality, will be here this coming Thursday. Tune in to that. We're going to be going live, as we always do, at 9 p.m. on Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So Dan Wilder, Two-Face the Wild One, Two-Face the Wild Boy, will be here this Thursday, and we're going to be talking about a gamut of stuff. So tune in for that. And then see me again on Sunday, where I'm starting a series on the psychological effects of positivity and negativity. The first night, we're going to do psychological effects of positivity. And then the following Sunday, we're going to be talking about the psychological effects of negativity, which kind of like intertwine to everything that we're talking about. Empathy, ethics, AI, it's all coming together as one, under one umbrella. So that's going to be very interesting. So hope to see you then. You guys have a wonderful week. Have a great night. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And that's our show. Y'all have a good one.